How's it going, guys? Untamed Gaming here. Welcome back to the channel, and I got another Call of Duty video up on the screen. And I was at my office the other day when I was just, having some time off, sitting there in the cubicle, and I just went to the YouTube studio and I saw that my most recent video when I was talking about Call of Duty and my point of view since I stopped. And I'm not sure if I have a Call of Duty audience on my hand here, but it's like since the last couple of uploads, other than the most recent one, I uploaded a Halo video when I was talking about some bad relationships I had in my past, and I had a couple of XDefiant videos up there. It seems that the Call of Duty ones, my most recent ones, are the ones that tend to pop off a little bit. So, and when I was sitting there in my cubicle and I looked at this, I was like, nah, this cannot be. This has to be a bot audience, right? And I want to continue on the topic of Call of Duty with my point of view and had that be with right now modern Call of Duty. And that would be like the issues, the kind of issues that I used to see back in the day from COD 4 to Black Ops 2. Compare that to what I've been hearing. So I think it would be a little bit easier if I list off some of the things that I already know from the issues that I had to face when I was playing these older Call of Duty games. And that goes with, I mean, some of these have already, they've stayed here, like hackers, for example. I'm not sure if boosting is still like a thing that people tend to do, especially when it comes to, skill-based matchmaking. I know there's reverse boosting, but it's not traditional boosting. So you had hackers, you had the traditional boosting, you had hit detection issues, lag, your typical bug here and there. Do you remember the silenced G3 in COD 4? If you had a silencer on your G3, you would still be found on the minimap. Just, typical bugs were there, which they kept in the remastered COD 4, just a fun fact. Then you had your occasional person who just came back from YouTube, learning how to go underneath the map, outside the map, going to a certain area where they can have a huge advantage to the opposition. I'm not aware in modern Call of Duty where there are map glitches that can give you a huge advantage or whatever, but some of those issues when involving the map usually got solved relatively quick, in a sense that from back in the day. If you were to do said glitch again after the patch, you would just end up dying. And I can't help but chuckle every time when I think about these issues that I had to deal with back in the day and compare those to an issue that somebody out there right now, while they're playing these modern Call of Duty games, the issues that they're dealing with. It's almost like the games themselves, like the older Call of Duty games of how they were developed were or whatever compared to the new ones, they were so simple. Even the issues that we had to deal with were simple. And they mostly came down to the player that we were playing. Like, these weren't game to game things. These were once every 10 games or once every 7 games, we would run across somebody who would be boosting, somebody who would just be doing hacks or doing whatever. These were not a common occurrence than what we see right now. And I went into ChatGPT and I wanted to ask it, like, because, I want to get up to speed with this stuff. And I asked ChatGPT, can you give me a list of the complaints that we see in modern Call of Duty games back to 2019 with the Modern Warfare 2019 game. And it goes over the movements and the gunplay. The movements seem slower, a lot more clunky feeling. The excessive focus on slide canceling. Time to kill is a little bit slower in these games than it was back in the golden era. Of course, you had microtransaction and monetization. You had pay-to-win concerns, the battle pass system, cosmetic overload with these skins, calling cards, etc. In Modern Warfare 2019, Warzone and Black Ops Cold War has been criticized by players who feel that Activision focuses more on making money through cosmetic sales than providing meaningful gameplay content. Cheating and hacking, especially in Warzone, we've all known how a very poor anti-cheat that is out there in Warzone that doesn't seem to be anything like an anti-cheat. It's just more of a kind of, I want to say, more of a hurdle when it comes down to being an anti-cheat to some of these hackers. You have content and map design, the repetitive and uninspired maps, especially with Modern Warfare 3. All the maps were like just reused maps that we had back in the golden era. It's like, if you're going to be using old assets from old games, like, why don't you just send out a remaster? Oh wait, you did have Modern Warfare 2 remastered, but you just went with the campaign because you thought that nobody would like the multiplayer. It's a really smart business move. And some other issues like poor campaigns and storytelling, server issues and technical problems. I mean, some of the older games had server issues and technical problems. Like hit detection was one of the key things back in the day, where you would have the classic wanted bullet, where you would be running across a corner, then you'd be like 10 miles, from the corner that you ran past, but you'd still get killed by the guy who was like on the other side of that corner. And you had weapon balance and overpowered items. I mean, Modern Warfare 2 2009 was just filled with overpowered stuff. That's how you made it balanced. You just made everything else overpowered, but then you still had a couple, whatever. And I already touched up on this. It was the lack of innovation, lack of new features. In particular, Modern Warfare 2019 and Vanguard have been criticized for not introducing enough new features to differentiate themselves from older games. While there have been tweaks and mechanics, some players feel that the core gameplay hasn't evolved in any meaningful way. And of course, there's the Battle Royale fatigue, Warzone focused updates favoring Warzone. Many players have voiced their frustration at Activision focusing too much on Warzone updates, leaving the traditional multiplayer experience for fewer content drops and features. If I want to slide in another one, especially when it comes down to the innovation stuff, tied up with the innovation part, at this point, as I mentioned in the last upload, I feel like Call of Duty nowadays has reached its peak when it comes down to innovation, which I also talked about why it's one of those issues where it's lack of innovation, because I feel like it's reached its peak of a Call of Duty game. I just think that there's one more thing that Activision and staff has yet to even try to innovate, is its freaking release dates. Annual release fatigue is a thing, and it takes a toll on a developer mentally. And I think that could be the case why there's so much, lack of imagination, lack of storytelling, this and that, is because these guys are practically brainstorming 24/7. Like Monday they worry about what features are going to be in this game, and then Tuesday they talk about what games will be coming out in 3 years from now, and then they got to get cramming onto that or whatever. Which is why some of the videos I see that you hear that some of the developers at these studios tend to have a really tough time at their studios. When you see videos at the studio, they have the smiles. Those smiles are fake. Those smiles are like, please help me, send me another job application for a good developing crew other here in Activision. It sucks here. Help. SOS. Help me. It really seems like a very simple change of business, and you could win a lot of people over just by making the announcement that you're not going to continue on with the annual releases and just move to a live service model. Call of Duty 2026 comes out, and that's going to be the Call of Duty game for the next 3-4 years, and gives enough time for maybe just merge all the studios, merge Infinity Ward, Treyarch, Sledgehammer Games all into one, and just work on this one Call of Duty game that takes actually 3 years or 4 years for everyone to be hands on deck for. And it could be a really game changer, and you could win a lot of people's opinions over for how you're developing these games. And so this has been a video, continuing on with the topic, and I wanted to talk about some of the stuff that I had to deal with, like with the issues that seemed a little bit more simplistic and basic issues that we worried about. That seemed a bit more player based than some of the more modern Call of Duty issues that we see that have been a little bit more developer or publisher based issues. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Give it a like if you did. subscribe and hit the bell to let you guys know that I upload a video. See you guys next one. Later.